Hello, Dr. Lori here. The first way that I want to talk to you about accelerating your health is through food. Now, we've all heard before, use food as medicine, but it is so true, especially if you start looking at the whole study of nutrigenomics and how food influences our body on the most cellular level. Because if you think about it, our body is made up of over 70 trillion cells. Every one of those cells have tiny receptors on them and electrical charges. That's how they communicate with one another. Those cells make up tissues, those tissues make up our organs, and then those organs make up our organ system, like our cardiovascular, our nervous system, our immune system. All of those systems that really predict how we can function at an accelerated level. So if we're not paying attention to the things that we're eating and fueling ourselves with, then it's very hard to transform our body. And remember, every one of our cells have a certain lifespan. So what you're putting in your body today really is predicting how it's functioning from a month from now, 2 months from now, even from a year from now. So the way that I want you to look at food is it can be pro-inflammatory, so causing more stress on the system, or anti-inflammatory. That's a very simplistic way to break down food. So looking at those two categories, the most common pro-inflammatory foods that just come to the top of my mind would be things like too much sugar, too much gluten, alcohol, too much caffeine or acidic foods. And then the anti-inflammatory ones would be the ones like ginger and fruits and leafy greens and tons of vegetables. See, if we're following a diet that's too many of the pro-inflammatory foods, then it's really leading to these inflammatory diseases like cancer, diabetes, arthritis, any of the itis conditions, diverticulitis, tendinitis. And when we can start controlling the inflammation in our body, that's when we can start reversing these chronic conditions that all at one point started just as an acute reaction to foods that we were putting into our system. The other really important thing to know is that every one of our cells have what's called a phospholipid bilayer. So it's like a fatty layer around each cell. And that's also how they communicate and the cells talk to one another. So if we're eating fats that are deep fried, they're saturated, then what that's going to do is cause more inflammation around the cell. And that's important to know because if you're inflamed on a cellular level, it's really hard for you to absorb the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals that you need to produce energy. So if you're starting to feel tired all the time, you feel puffy, inflamed, it's hard to lose weight, you just find that you have more aches and pains, then we need to start looking at the foods that you're eating that are affecting your body on that cellular level. So healthy fats would be things like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, coconut oil, and avoiding anything that is saturated and deep fried. It's interesting because I was reading that deep fried potatoes, so French fries, can actually be more harmful for you than cigarette smoke. And the reason why is because cigarettes produce a lot of free radicals in the body, and our body has to work hard to have enough antioxidants to neutralize that. But with deep fried potatoes, they produce aldehydes, and aldehydes are a chemical that is carcinogenic. So it's harder to get rid of these active compounds in the system than it would be for other free radicals that our body is inhaling or it's exposed to. So the way that your food is cooked is another critical point to remember when it comes to fueling your body properly. So if you're having things in more of a raw form, lightly steamed, that's the best way because it keeps it very high in vitamins and minerals and all the nutrients you need, versus the ones that are just processed, full of chemicals and fillers and things that's harder for your body to break down. What I like to do in my own practice is actually look at people's genetics, because it's interesting. You see some people who eat like garbage all the time and you wonder, how do they live to 90 years old? And they must have a really good genetic composition where they can handle that. Or even for smokers, for example, how come not all smokers get lung cancer and lung disease? But a lot of it has to do with what's called genetic SNPs. So some people can break down fats really well, whereas others convert those fats into sugars, can actually become diabetic. So I'll look at what your genetic profile is, I'll look at your blood work, how much inflammation you have, and really personalize a diet for you. And that's what's important to know when it comes to personalized medicine. We all know like the pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory foods, but like how much leeway can you have without creating heart disease or seeing cancer growth in the system? Some common blood work that you can ask for is your hemoglobin A1C to see how your body's dealing with sugars, a cholesterol panel. You can also look at nutrient levels. If you're supplementing with vitamin D for months or years and it's still low, you may be having a vitamin D issue as far as absorbing fats. So if you think about it, the main reason why we eat is to nourish our cells, and it really does happen at that foundational level. And each person is extremely different as far as what they can tolerate. And so if you're eating the same diet as someone else with the same disease process, you may find that you tolerate it extremely different. So we need to look at what your lifestyle is like, what your goals are, and looking at the genetics and lab work to really personalize that food plan for you.